Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome.
Morning. Morning.
Morning. I see some familiar faces. Oh, I hear myself through somebody's computer too. Okay, so I'm Lisa Larter. If you don't know who I am, I would like to ask you all to mute yourself if possible, unless you are talking during this session. It'll just allow for a cleaner recording and better audio for everyone. If you are not familiar with Zoom, there are a couple of ways that you can view Zoom. In the top right corner, you should see a button that says view, and you can choose speaker or gallery view. Speaker view will allow you to see whoever is speaking on the screen, and gallery view will allow you to see the grid with a bunch of people with all of our small photos on the screen. Because we have more than 25 people here in attendance, if you want to see everyone else, you just have to press the arrow over to see the secondary screen. Cass Bald, do you want to wave, Cass, so people can see you? Cass Bald from my team is here to help Alan and I. She is going to be our moderator. So if she hears background noise, she'll be, quietly muting people, and she will be letting people ask questions. So if you have a question, if you press the reactions button at the very bottom of the Zoom screen, you can raise your hand. When you raise your hand, that's our sign that you want to ask a question, and Cass will be calling on people individually so that you can come on the screen and ask your question directly to Alan and I. Alan and I have set aside up to 60 minutes to answer questions. If we run out of questions before then, we'll wrap up early, but we are prepared to go for at least 60 minutes. And we're going to take questions as we go along. So this is a fireside chat. This is not a PowerPoint presentation. This is just a conversation between Alan and I and all of you about our book, Masterful Marketing. So Alan, I'm going to pass things over to you. Thank you for being here with us, and thank you for saying yes to writing this book with me when I asked you about it. Otherwise, there would not be a book with my name on it, because without you, I would not have done it. Oh, you're muted, Alan.
I'm probably better on mute. I don't know. I just got a Father's Day card from my daughter who said, without you, I wouldn't be here. So I thought that was kind of nice. So it's kind of the same thing. So welcome, everyone. Glad you're here. Happy that you're here. Questions at any time are fine. And here's the thing about marketing, right? You and I, all of you, are in the marketing business. And whenever anybody asks me about consulting or coaching or facilitating or anything else, being an expert, I tell them the same thing. You're in the marketing business. You might call yourself a consultant. You might call yourself a psychologist. I don't care. You're in the marketing business. And so it's insufficient to be an expert in your content field. And Lisa's going to talk a little while about content development and production. But it's insufficient just to be a content expert. You have to be damn good at marketing. And so there are a lot of content brilliant people who are starving because they can't market. They consider it dirty. They're not good at it. They want to learn the skills. There are some people with good content who are pretty good marketers, and they do well. Then there are people with excellent content, all of you, of course, who are excellent marketers. Not all of you, but those people do spectacularly well. So you have to get used to the fact this is the marketing business. And, I've been sharing for a long time the fact that while people talk about a brand sort of academically as a uniform representation of value, the fact is in marketing, a brand is how people think about you when you're not there. And almost all of you, as I am, are lone wolves, sole practitioners. Some of you are like Lisa, have a boutique firm. But the fact is we have limited time, energy, and money. And so consequently, you can't be every place all the time. And you have to have people think about you when you're not there. You do that by building a brand. You build a brand by marketing. It's never too early. It's never too late. And there's never a time to take a break from it. And one of the essentials I would like you to think about today, I believe that if you improve by 1% a day in 70 days, you're twice as good. You've heard me say that probably. And one of the 1% potential perhaps for you is to think about the fact that these changing times that we're in are fabulously exciting. They're challenging, they're exciting, and they are rife with potential. And so I talk about using disruption and turmoil and volatility as offensive weapons, not to hide from them, but to use them as offensive weapons. In the 90s, I introduced value-based fees for consultants. And today I have the strongest independent consulting brand in the world, all this time later. And so you've got to disrupt, you've got to be different. And it's about looking at what you do and not just looking at your current clients. You have to think about your future ideal client because they change and because their conditions change. I'm going to give you one vibrant example of this, which I just, you know how we all talk about rinse and repeat, right? The shampoo people said, we'll just add this line, rinse and repeat, we'll double our sales. This is brilliant, right? I'll tell you something much more contemporary that I think is even more brilliant. For years and years and years, right? I've been a client of American Express since 1972. I've gone through all their colors of their cards. And it was, for the last decade or more, don't leave home without it. Right? Don't leave home without it. Pretty good phrase. Except 2 or so years ago, people stopped leaving home. And they changed their phrase to don't live life without it. That cost them virtually nothing, except they understand who their clients are, who their customers are, and what their conditions may be. Don't live life without it. So if you're ordering on the internet here, just have your American Express card right nearby. Use that. This is how we look at the market. And in Lisa's book, in my book, we talk about the fact that even unsolicited referrals are really solicited. You have to work to get unsolicited referrals. So these are some of the subtleties that the book talks about. So I promised you we talk about content creation, so I will throw it back to Lisa.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we talk about in the book is that the content that you create should be in alignment with the fees that you are charging. And so as a consultant, if you are if you're using value-based fees or you're charging a premium for the services that you provide, one of the things that you should be asking yourself is the value of the content that I am creating a good indicator of what it would be like to actually do business with me. One of the areas that I see as the greatest area of opportunity for a lot of consultants is creating a much more in-depth body of work, whether it is writing blog content, whether it's producing videos, whether it's writing books or small books, but actually creating content that you can use in your marketing materials to really position your brand and position the value that you offer. When you read a blog and it's not really valuable, it's not helpful to your buyer, then how are you going to expect them to want to do business with you? So Alan talked about referrals and how no referral is really unsolicited. I look at referrals as the byproduct of doing good work, but I also look at your website as what I call the stranger zone. And the stranger zone is because strangers go to your website to check you out. Strangers go to your website to read the content that you have created. People who already know you, like you, and trust you don't need to do that because they're not going to go to your website. They're just going to reach out to you. So the reason that the creation of all of this is so important is so that you can A, stay top of mind, but B, when some of those referrals do end up looking you up, that you've actually created a body of work that is in alignment with the services that you offer and the value that you want to provide to other people. And you can't just do that as a one-off. If I go to your website and I see that the last time you created a piece of blog content was in 2020, I'm going to make an assumption that you probably have gone out of business. So I think it's really important that you think about the cadence and the frequency at which you are creating content so that you can use that content in your marketing to stay top of mind and to provide value to your existing customers and potential new customers.
I'm big on community, and I distinguish between community and tribes, for example. And if some of you read Monday Morning Memo, you saw that yesterday morning. Community is a very important concept. And you hear me talk about being in the public square. And what I mean by being in the public square is being in the public square of your community and your projected community. And so people outside of consulting don't know who on earth I am. I mean, you're always, I keep this on my desk here. My wife gave this to me. A prophet is not without honor, except in his native place and among his own kin and in his own house. This is Mark chapter 6, verse 4. So that's an attempt to keep my head out of the Macy's Day, Thanksgiving Day parade as afloat. And the fact is that nobody might know who you are, but in your realm, in your empire, in your expertise, people should know who you are. And so the public square doesn't just involve what we're doing here. I mean, Zoom is wonderful, but it's hardly the be all and end all. Community has to involve a variety of interactions. There are people telling me in my community that, well, no one's traveling. The airlines are packed, folks. The people who believe no one is traveling are people at home not traveling. The people sitting there locked in their bedroom or their living room or their den or something, and they don't want to travel. And so they say, well, nobody's traveling. Everybody's traveling. I just came from a business trip in Hawaii. We were in Kauai because there were people there from Japan and Australia and Canada and the US. So believe me, people are traveling. So you have to interact with people to be in this public square in a variety of ways. And if you start doing that, you're going to become distinct. And on your way, as you become more and more distinct, you become unique. And once you're unique, people will flock to you. So, a long time ago, when I was first starting the business, people were talking about standing out in a crowd, right? That was the phrase, stand out in a crowd. And I said out loud once, sometimes I say things out loud that I'm thinking, this is not good. But I said at this meeting, well, it's fine to be standing out in a crowd so long as you look good when you're standing there. And everybody sort of stopped. But it's the truth. You can stand out in a crowd, boy, and it could be the end of your career, right? And so, you have this inherent worth. You move it toward distinction, and then you move it toward uniqueness. And what our book is about is how you do that, how you do it interactively, how you do it digitally, how you do it one-on-one, how you do it one-on-many. But that's what you have to be thinking about. And so people say to me, well, how much time should I allot each week to marketing? It's a ridiculous question. You're always marketing. What we're doing here, Lisa and I, is marketing. When I'm writing a book, I'm marketing. When I'm speaking to people, I'm marketing. When I'm putting something on the internet, I'm marketing. Everything's about marketing. It's not a dirty word, and it's what gets customers. And so we have to think about the best way to attract our future ideal clients. And so before I end this little segment, I want you to remember this. Future ideal clients are the people you're really concerned about, because your ideal clients can tend to change. Your own expertise might grow. You might decide to go in different directions. All that's great. But as you look to how you want to market, it has to be the future ideal clients. So just consider that for a while, okay? So Lisa, what do you think about the best way to look at the future and the best way to look at clients? And by the way, if you don't know this, if you look at Lisa's outfit and my outfit, dots are very important in marketing. It's very clear.
Well, I think it's really important that you know where your community hangs out. And so I think that, when you said the public square is where your buyers are, it's really important that people are taking a look at where their buyers really are. I've had people ask me questions before with respect to social media. Where should I post on social media? And my question is always the same. Where do your buyers hang out? And it's not like we all have thousands of customers in our databases. You can take a look at your top 10, top 20 customers that you've done business with over the last 2 years and make a list and go look. Do they use LinkedIn? Do they use Twitter? Are they on TikTok? I mean, you can make assumptions about where your buyers are, but until you actually go look, you don't really know. I think the second thing that is important is, Alan, you show up inside of your community on the forum every day, and you respond to people and interact with people every single day. If you're not there one day, people would question, where's Alan? What happened to Alan? Yet I see people comment on things on LinkedIn or on Facebook and ask people questions about business, and they don't get a response. So you can't build community without interaction. You can't build community without communication. And so I think as you think about the future of your buyers, you need to think about, where are they going? Where are they migrating to? And where are you able to interact with them either in person or from home? Years ago, we saw Facebook as one of the fastest growing segments of social media. Now, Facebook is actually declining. More people are migrating over to Instagram and LinkedIn than Facebook. Yet there's this whole other audience of people moving over to TikTok. And a lot of us might look at TikTok and say, hey, there's no value in TikTok. Specifically for corporate clients, there's no value in TikTok. But unless you go look at TikTok and see whether or not your customer has an account there and whether your customer is interacting there, you don't know. So I think we have to be a little bit more savvy in inspecting what we expect in order to determine where the people we want to do business spend the most time. And then we need to gravitate towards those places, both in person and online. And Patty, you are funny. I don't think we will ever see Alan dance on TikTok or on an Instagram reel. I can just visualize him pointing to the chat bubbles right now on an Instagram reel, and us all thinking that he's lost his mind.
The only place I dance and I actually sing is every 5 years at the Rainbow Room. So choose your spots. You have to be careful. Look, you have limited time, right? Remember when Periscope was the big thing on, I guess, Twitter? And man, that was a disaster. Just a disaster. Love bubbles coming up and then random people making obscene comments. And so just because something exists doesn't mean it's good. So let me tell you about the 5 things I think are most important in your marketing. And you don't have to do these 5 things. But if you can't do any of the 5, I would suggest you click off now and look into another line of work. You got to do 1 or 2. And so you build on strengths, right? So one thing, 4 of these things are equal, but this one is the most important, and that's referrals. You have to be able to ask for referrals in person with clients, on the phone, on Zoom, by email. You need to be able to ask for referrals. The literature over the last decade or more is unequivocal. And Jonah Berger, who's at Wharton School, has done a great job with this. He wrote Contagion. He wrote Invisible Influence. He spoke at one of my meetings for me. Great guy. He endorsed one of my books. And the research is that something like 87%, somewhere up there, of corporate decision making in terms of acquisition is made on the basis of peer-to-peer reference. And so getting a referral, getting on those radar screens is the key to business. That's how it works. And if you think about it, you ask people, do you have a good attorney? Do you have a good designer? Where should I go on vacation? And you ask people you trust, and people ask you, and you respond that way because we're doing each other a favor. And that's how these executives work with each other. I'm talking about corporate purchasing now. So referral business is based upon your ability to get on those radar screens and ask for referrals of people who admire your work, or people who maybe you haven't worked with, like a designer, an accountant, an attorney, who provide you with services, but no other people who can buy your services. A second is speaking. And if you like to speak for free, speak for a fee. It doesn't matter, but just make sure if you're speaking for free, there are buyers in the room. I spoke at the National Feed, Grain, and Goat Herders Association or something because they paid me a fortune, but there were no buyers in that room. I'm not in animal husbandry. However, I'll speak for free at the American Council of Life Insurance, where they have 250 CEOs in the room. So speaking, if you like to do speaking, again, you build on your strengths, a great thing to do. Publishing is a fabulous thing to do. You don't have to publish a book, although, as a lot of you know, I run these book sprints and so forth and so on. I used to tell people try to publish a book every 2 years. Now it's 18 months. I have 3 books that have come out or are coming out this year alone. And I just got a contract to write a book on sentient strategy for next year. So I'm a big believer in books, but blogs, as Lisa spoke about, newsletters, letters to the editor, op-ed pieces, whatever you can do. Publishing is very important. And I include podcasts in publishing. Podcasts are very popular. A 4th is networking. And networking is a process, not an event. And so you want to network, and you don't want to go necessarily to a professional association. You want to go to an arts group, a charity group, a fundraiser, an awards presentation, a political activity, where you'll meet people who are on the board. You'll meet people who are big donors, and these people are either buyers or they know buyers. You want to network with those people. You don't want to sell them anything there. I know a woman once who took books with her and gave out books at networking events. What am I going to do with this book? You just want to have an excuse to contact them subsequently and pick up the conversation. And then finally, hosted events. This is the breakfast meeting or something like it, where you invite in 12 or 15 people. You invite 50, you hope to get 12 or 15, who are at the level of buyer that you particularly seek, the kind of businesses you particularly seek. and you can enter into a third-party arrangement. Your legal team, your law firm might be willing to set that up as an intermediary because they get credit for it as well, or your accounting firm or somebody else. So those are the 5 best ways I've seen, which I've culled down to over the years to do your marketing. And that's how you get into the public square, and that's how you get known. Now, let me pause here. Do we have questions that we should be responding to?
No questions so far, but everyone, this is your
Okay.
opportunity. If there's something you'd like to ask, you can ask now.
Listen, my kind of group, that's fine. So Lisa, back to you. Let me ask you this. You used to run your own business in terms of a retail business. And now you run, what I would call a business to business kind of operation, right? So what have you seen that applies across the board in terms of marketing that you think people need to keep in mind? I mean, I just mentioned 5 things that I was talking about, but what are your insights about that?
Well, I think that, number one, networking is applicable to both, because even when you own a retail bricks and mortar business, one of the ways that I was able to grow that business the fastest was through networking. And the exact same is true in my service-based business. Second is really focusing on what I would say is traffic. So in retail, you always want to measure the amount of traffic that is foot traffic that is coming into your bricks and mortar business. I think that the parallel to that for an online or service business is figuring out what traffic are you measuring? Are you measuring the traffic to your website? Are you measuring the traffic that is, an inbound lead, whether it's an email or somebody filling out an opt-in form to request information from you, but how people are actually coming in the door to create an opportunity for you to have a conversation with them. The fourth thing is, in alignment with marketing. Now, I will tell you, when I opened my retail store, I essentially flushed $30,000 down the toilet because I tried to do marketing like a corporation does marketing. I put ads in newspapers, I did direct mail, I did coupon books, I did all the things that.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear that, Shari.
I'm gonna mute that person. I did all the things that I saw big corporations do, and it didn't work for my small business. It wasn't until I got out and met with people and started my own internal referral program that sales inside of my retail business really took off. So I put together a referral program where if people referred someone else to our store, they both received a benefit as a thank you for referring the business to us. And that worked exceptionally well. What I didn't expect to happen was people would literally bring their friends, their family, their colleagues into our store with my little referral offer because they wanted to be part of the whole introduction process while that person got the referral. We see that happen through email conversation or through, LinkedIn Messenger or Facebook Messenger all the time now. People are proud to refer other people to people who do good work. And so those are some of the things that I think very much overlap conceptually for a retail bricks and mortar store and an online B2B business. I think the one differentiator, and Alan, maybe you can talk a little bit about this. My clients are all small business owners. So I would say the largest client that I have ever worked with is a client that probably does about $10 million a year in sales. So I don't consider myself someone who sells to corporate. I have done business with large, like Fortune 50 companies, but that's not who my primary customer is. How would you delineate, the small and medium-sized business space to the corporate business, and what are some of the distinctions from a marketing perspective from your point of view?
Well, that's really a good question. So I've dealt with the largest companies in the world, with some of the most powerful people in the world, and it's a relatively easy sale. I've dealt with people like you right now in the retail business overwhelmingly, and that's a relatively easy sale. The middle is the toughest. Closely held businesses are the toughest. Smaller businesses are the toughest. So let me just speak a few minutes on that. In the corporate environment, you're not dealing with people who are worried about whether the money they're going to give to you is better spent on their kids' college education or on a vacation or on some family crisis, all right? Completely divorced. When you're talking about individuals, it's pretty easy to make a case, at least in my experience, that, look, if you invest in my health, all your other dreams, all your other schemes, all your other plans will be enhanced, will be augmented. You'll make better progress because I can help you do that. And I can show you never-ending examples of people who have done it with whom I've worked. But in the middle, you have these people who have chicks to feed. They have employees, they have family. Some of the family is in the operation, which is horrible. And consequently, they're wondering, if I give you this money, I have to take it from somewhere. So our challenge in marketing is not to be another item on the metaphorical plate, right? My plate is full. I love that phrase. I don't have the bandwidth. I love this phrase. These are stupid, empty memes. Okay. So what I tell people is, if you use me, your plate will be cleared. I'm the plate clearer. All right. You got all this crap you're dealing with. I can help you get rid of it. I can help you improve in these areas. I can help you get rid of this pain. I can do all of that. And here's how I do it. And what we all have to learn to do, and this works at the highest corporate levels, it works with individuals, and it works with the great in between, is we have to learn the language. And the language is this. This is being recorded. You can listen to this again and again, but here's the language. Ready? I can help you. Questions? We don't say that to people. We don't have the chutzpah to say that to people. I can help you. And you've all heard me say, somebody raises an objection and I say, that's exactly why you need me. We have to tell, if you are not enthusiastic and energetic, nobody's going to buy, because enthusiasm and energy are infectious. They are contagious. And that's what we have to show people. That's what we have to demonstrate. So there are some amazing similarities in marketing with these folks, but there are some very unique distinctions in terms of this middle that I've been talking about. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't sell to them. It's a great marketplace. But I want to give you one more hint here, and it's this. You can't be the 200,000th person to tell people something. You have to be the first person to tell them things. And I sit here and invent ways to do that. I sit here with Bentley behind me on the dog bed with a drink in my hand or looking out the window at the backyard. It's very simple. I shall give you an example. The Great Resignation. As soon as that occurred, I said to myself, okay, this doesn't sound right. This is like nails on a blackboard. And so I started calling it the existential jailbreak. And I said that this was not a great resignation. People were tired of not being recognized for their work, and they were breaking out of prison, and they regarded their places as prisons. If you want to hold on to people, stop treating them as inmates and treat them differently. And by the way, people don't leave organizations. They leave people in organizations. They leave their boss. When people started talking about supply chain problems, I pointed out to them that the Ever Given, what a unique name for the ship in the Suez Canal. I said, well, that was really, apparently that was Noah's Ark, and it had two of everything, and it can't move, so now we have nothing, So you have to take a different view on what's going on to stand out in a crowd, and therefore to be seen in the public square. So if you want to stand out in a crowd, you want to look good, think of different ways to present things to people, put a new twist on them, and people will come to you. This is not an expensive proposition. And this occurs whether it's a corporate officer who say, hey, I don't want people to leave on my watch, or it's somebody who owns a business who says, I can't afford to lose staff. And what I'm telling people now is losing staff's the best thing that ever happened to you, because now you can streamline your business, and every business can be streamlined. So I just want to encourage you to think differently, to stand out in the crowd, and to look good while you're standing there. So Lisa, what's your experience in terms of people giving you some line about why they'd love to do business, but they just can't do it now?
What is my experience? Usually people, the line that I get, it has to do with budget. So normally it's like I can't afford to do that right now. Or once I'm making more money, that's something that I will do. So people are not necessarily seeing that they need to invest in where they want to go versus where they're at. And if they don't make the investment, they're never going to move from where they are. It's interesting. I remember years ago when I hired one of my first managers on my team. I hired that manager on my team because of where I wanted the business to go by the end of that year, not based on where I was at the time. And so I think that, money becomes an obstacle for people, which just kind of speaks to what you said about the people in the middle versus the people on either ends of the marketing scale. I also hear the same thing as you. I just don't have time when it comes to creating marketing, blogs, books, videos, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So let's establish two things here about money and about time. These are not resources; they're priorities, and so it's a question of how they're allocated. There's a difference between budget and money. Budget consists of pre-allocated monies at the beginning of the year. And so somebody says, well, we have no budget for you. Well, of course not, because when you were doing this last year, you had no idea you'd meet me and you'd have this need, or somebody would refer you to me or me to you and so forth. So having no budget is not a problem. And no buyer can tell you I have no money, because buyers, if you deal with buyers, reallocate money. They take it from this budget and they put it over here. So what's the language? You get a better return investing in me than you're getting investing in that. So you need to reallocate money. And the whole purpose of buyers is they reallocate money. So money is not a resource, it's a priority. Time, I don't have time, is not a resource, it's a priority. I have time to see my kid's soccer game. Oh, yes, you do. You choose not to. Now, maybe you have a good reason not to go. You're making money to support their soccer team. But the fact is, we all have control of our time and we choose what to do with it. So what we have to do as marketers is show that the best investment of these priorities, not resources, the best investment in these priorities is to determine what the best option is, and the best option had better be us. And that's the case we have to make. The reason I've established, for example, Sentient Strategy as a one-day strategic program, which you can do in a day, and you set strategy just for a year, is it's very different from anything else out there. And whatever your expertise is, you have to establish as different from anything else out there. So the good thing about mass needs, evergreen needs like strategy and leadership and change management and things like this, the good thing is there's always a market for it. The bad thing is that there are millions of alternatives. You have to stand out in that crowd. So you have to work harder to stand out in that crowd. And if you keep these things clear in your head and you can demonstrate in person, remotely, by referral to people that you are indeed distinct, that you are even unique, then you'll get the business. And that's what I mean by getting unsolicited referrals by working at it. Okay, Cass, how we doing? Still no questions?
No, we have a couple now. So
Yeah, but now I don't feel like answering them.
Phil has asked about the pros and cons of having a co-author when writing a book.
Okay, Lisa, why don't you take that?
Phil, are you still with us? I don't see you on my screen. Are you on the next screen? I see you waving now. You can unmute yourself, Phil, and jump in if you have more to ask about this question. So I would say that the pros of working with a co-author is if you're someone like me and you have a hard time sitting your seat down or putting your bum in a seat and actually doing the writing, working with someone like Alan helped me to be more accountable to getting it done. I would say the cons of having a co-author is if you don't find a co-author that is aligned with your values and the material that you want to write about, you can end up in a lot of analysis paralysis and potentially never finish the book. Alan, what would you say?
Well, I've written 60 something books, and I think I've done probably 6 or 8 with co-authors. I have another one with a co-author coming out early next year. And I'm careful about who I choose to write with. When Lisa came to me with this great idea, oh, there's Gene Moran. I wrote a book with him. When Lisa came to me with this idea, I thought it was a really good idea. And of course, I knew Lisa well, and I thought it would be very compatible. We get it done. We got it done very rapidly. And I like the aspect of having a publisher in London. That was appealing too. My feeling is this. If you're going to co-write a book with somebody who's got a strong brand and has published before, it's easy to make the deal as long as that person and you are compatible in what you're thinking. It's a really good idea. If you're going to write a book with another virtually unknown person, or you don't have that other person has a strong brand, you got to be very, very careful, because this is going to sound horrible to a lot of you, but one of you has to write. Both of you ideate, create, but only one of you write. Otherwise, it gets crazy, because you have to have one voice in a book, really. And so you have to be careful about that. And in that case, the whole is not often greater than the sum of the parts. So you might be better off just doing it independently. But if you can get somebody who can help you with the construction and the architecture of the book, and who's been there and done that and whose name will help you, then by all means do that. Because I learn a lot in doing that. And that's why I like to write with other people. I just want to make sure that their philosophy is copacetic with mine. But in that case, it's a good thing to do. Okay.
I just want to add
Yeah.
to that, from my perspective, there was a healthy enough dose of, I'm going to say, intimidation and respect for you, Alan, that I prioritize my time to do my writing. Like you and I had a really good cadence back and forth where every week, I would have to write my thoughts and my points on the chapter outline, and I had to send them to you. And I had to not send you just fluff, because one time I sent you fluff and you called me out on it. You said, this isn't detailed enough. And so when I actually read what I wrote, I realized it wasn't detailed enough. It needed to be more concrete. And I was able to make it more concrete and send it back to you. But that cadence of having someone essentially hold me accountable, even though Alan would say that he didn't hold me accountable, I felt accountable. I felt responsible for showing up, worked really well for me. Whereas when I am writing by myself, and someone else has asked about writing with a ghostwriter, we'll get to that question later, I have not found that I've had the same urgency to finish as I did when I was writing with Alan. So it definitely motivated me to get the work done.
Yeah, let me clear the record here. You didn't intimidate me.
No, I know I don't intimidate you.
Oh, okay. You said intimidation, but I was not intimidated.
I'll try
Cass.
harder next time.
Okay. Cass, next question.
Next question comes from Amanda. If you'd like to unmute yourself, Amanda, you can ask out loud.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
Amanda.
Hi, Lisa. This question is for Lisa. What have been the best strategies that you've used recently to drive traffic to your website?
Well, that's a great question. Are you looking for traffic drivers that are organic, or are you looking for paid? So why don't I answer both? So on the organic side, Cass and I just actually did an analysis on this. And this year, which is different from other years, 72% of the traffic that comes to my website is from organic search. The next big chunk of traffic that comes to my website is from the She Talks Business podcast. So people are coming to the actual podcast page. And then the last would be referral from social media. That's all organic. If I really want to drive traffic to the website, though, I would be using more paid reach. And I would be using paid reach through Facebook and LinkedIn remarketing pixels. So I would be really, really specific about the audience that I was trying to remarket to increase traffic to my website by focusing on people who have been on my website before. Because when I get that content in front of people who have been to my website before and they start to engage with it, I have a better chance of other people seeing that content, and by virtue of that, driving organic traffic. The social referrals are down this year in comparison to the Google or the SEO traffic. And so as Google makes changes to their algorithms and social media channels make changes to theirs, our knowledge of search engine optimization and how to use it effectively to get found becomes more and more important.
Okay, let's not go farther there. I want to make a point that Patty Latterjean here has my book over her shoulder, which I think is very important on Zoom. Cass, what's next?
The next question comes from Naboisha. I hope I pronounced your name correct. If you'd like to unmute yourself, you can ask your question.
Hi, I just got the answer because you were speaking about inbound marketing and you didn't mention advertising, but just now Lisa mentioned how are you using advertising? So thanks.
Yeah, that's how I use paid reach for sure.
Okay.
Cass, what else?
Tony B has their hand up. You can unmute yourself.
It's actually not Tony B, but thanks, Alan. Thank you. I got married a week or so ago, and this is my new wife, Professor Susan Young, who is joining me, and she has the question.
Well, it's because I have two businesses actually, and I'm trying to sort of hone things down and get things. So Tony suggested I come and listen to you guys, and to give it some, I think my problem is slightly different. I think it's very slick and very understandable. And from an academic perspective, I can see how everything pans out that you're saying. But practically, I don't really get how I could kind of draw some of this out. So, I mean, I do a lot of the five.
Whoa. What is your question? What is your question?
Well, okay. Well, the question is if you're going to do all this and you don't have the time, if you're captured by your own success, everyone wants me. I can't say someone else is going to provide this service or that service. They want me. I put up all my prices thinking that might resolve it, and it didn't. They still wanted me. But so the question is, if I'm going to market something and I want passive income, that's my strategy. I want to be laying on a beach and earning money. So I'm going to be doing all my training as passive income. So to market that and put that out and to reach my market, I don't have the time to do hundreds of podcasts. I'm already doing all that stuff anyway.
Okay, stop.
So who do I find? How do you find those people?
Stop.
Okay.
Okay. So your question is, you're very busy, you're in demand. How do you find time to market other things like passive income, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's my answer. You're busy because you're not changing the way you do business. And so you say people want you. Well, you determine how they get you. And you have to streamline your business. Basically, there are three options to cut back on time. Number one is you streamline what you do. There aren't 6 steps now, there are 2 steps. Number two is you shift work to them and you ask your client or your customer to do more of the work rather than you. And number 3 is you use subcontractors. And a lot of us get to the point where we feel that, well, it's just me, no one can do it as well or as fast as I can. And one of my early clients, who when he came to, he's making around 600,000 a year, now makes 10 million a year after about 10 years. And he makes 10 million a year because I convinced him other people could do certain things. And now he has 5 or 6 people who do them. And he does take about 4 months a year on the beach. So, I would say to you, without knowing your business intimately, that you have to do some triage here. You have to continue to raise your prices. You have to do things that are remote for people who you don't want to give your full time to. But this is more of an implementation question than a marketing question. So if you want to talk more about that, feel free to drop me a line and I'll try to help you. But I want to go back to marketing at this point. Cass, what else you got?
Next question is coming from, let's see, Lucy. Lucy, do you want to unmute yourself?
Lucy from Switzerland?
Yeah.
There you are.
Good to see you. Alan, I was sent last week. I was doing some work with a kind of headhunting kind of company. They did some amazing global research, came up with the top 10 issues boards right now want to know about. 2 of them, the top 2, I know a lot about. How do I get myself out in the public square fast with the fact I have a lot of stuff on this? Is it a blog post or, I mean, I can't put a book together that fast. I can't set up talks that fast.
Okay. All right. You want to take that, Lisa? You want me to take it?
You can take it. We can both take it.
Okay. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Sure.
I'm not good at decisions. Okay.
All right. I'll go. So my recommendation would be to, if you know a lot about the top 2, is to first make a list of everything that you want to share related to the top 2 issues. And then I would probably start by doing some video content around those top 2 things. I would then transcribe the video content and create a series of individual blog posts. And then depending on your word count, you might be able to self-publish a small book and get it to market a lot faster than you think. The other thing that you could do once you have the transcripts is you could turn some of that content into branded documents or articles that are really nicely laid out, and you could do some direct mail with those things to send out to boards as a way of providing value.
Fantastic. Thank
Lucy,
you.
give me one of the 2 things.
First one is Web3 and digital. Web3 metaverse.
Web streaming.
Sorry?
Web stream what?
Web3. So this is where metaverse, VR, blockchain all comes together in digital.
Okay. And what's the advantage?
the advantage right now is don't jump in, actually, it's too early. So the advantage is actually just be smart about this. There's still in the hype stage, really.
Okay, so what I would do, in addition to what Lisa was telling you, what I would do is I would focus on the result of this discovery, this research, this point of view, whatever you said it is, this hot topic. I would talk about the result and the impact on your buyers. And I would use social proof to verify where you are. You say you have a lot of knowledge about this. So what are examples you would use about something like this that was launched and people got into it too fast before? You know, I mean,
Okay.
you're the expert here, not I. But what are examples? So use social proof to make your point, but focus on the result, not the input. Focus on the outcome, not the input. I think that will give you the ability to stand out in a crowd and a lot more credibility. And I think, you know, if you wanted to, a 25-page ebook, you know, might make sense, something you can do fast with some examples, some visuals, but that's the implementation. I would focus on results here.
Fantastic. Thank you. Great.
Okay.
Thank you both.
The next
Cass, we
question
got more?
comes
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Sam Allison. You can unmute yourself.
Sam,
Hi, Alan. How are you?
good. Somebody just talked about you the other day.
Oh, I was going to email you about someone, so it's probably the same someone. And it might relate to my question, which is, what are your thoughts about using ghostwriters?
About using what?
Ghostwriters to write a
Oh,
book.
ghostwriters. Oh, yeah, Lisa, you said this was coming. Yeah. I have very mixed feelings about ghostwriters, and I'll tell you what they are. I've never used one because I write all my own stuff. People ask me, who do you use to write your stuff? I love to write. I write my own stuff. But I do know some ghostwriters who are decent, you know, good writers. But the problem is this. Whatever is written has to be your voice. There has to be a consistency about what people feel and hear and see and so forth. So it's got to be your voice. Some ghostwriters are good at, they'll interview you, they'll listen to you, they'll run things by you, and you have to be willing to make changes. You know, I wouldn't use this example, I'd use that example. This doesn't sound like me, or that's not my experience. But if you've got somebody with that kind of sensitivity, you're okay. But a lot of ghostwriters will just do a perfunctory kind of interview and then write a book. And while they're skilled writers, they're not representing you well. And, you know, people have to believe what they see is what they get. So, you know, if you showed up to speak and it was different from what the book is they read, is going to be a problem. So the best thing about a ghostwriter, I think, about hiring one, find someone you really trust who's used one. This goes back to peer level reference, which I talked about earlier. Find someone who's used one you really trust and get introduced to that person. Lisa, what do you think?
My experience in working with a ghostwriter on my first book wasn't the best. When I got the book read like a series of separate chapters that were not connected well together. And therefore, I think I probably spent more time editing my manuscript from beginning to end so that it flowed nicely and that the chapters were connected to each other in a more thoughtful way and fixing my voice. And I think that it probably would have been easier for me to just write the chapters myself instead of having someone else do that work. So my recommendation would be to find a good copy editor who can help you take your drafts and make them a little bit stronger. I find that when I am writing, my challenge is I get caught up in perfectionism. And so if I can just write draft copy, starter copy, and I can get somebody to help me make that starter copy better, then it allows me to move faster and it retains my voice. So I would do the opposite of hiring a ghostwriter. I would hire somebody to help edit what I've done and help them get them to help me make it better.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Cass, you got more?
Yep. Next question comes from Dee Dee.
Hey, Dee Dee.
Would you like to unmute yourself? You can speak a question.
Sure.
Or I
Oh,
can-
you want me to ask a question? Okay, great. So as you know, Alan and everybody else, I have a new book out and I've been giving free talks and it has been so, it's been very well received. When I'm done with the talk, I have loads of people surround me. This is great. I love everything you've said, but now I want to get paid speaking. And I'm wondering if there is a magic media kit that says how much I charge. I've been a little gun shy to put that out. And so do you have an example of something that I could put out as the ideal media kit and ask to get the paid speaking position?
Didi, so you're asking how to get paid. Are you asking how to get paid positions or what to charge or both?
I want to charge $5,000 and give a copy of the book or charge a little extra for the book, but I want to land the paid speaking position.
Okay, so you're not talking about workshops, you're talking about speeches.
Speeches or, this kind of thing where people could ask questions.
All right, so I'm going to cover a lot of ground very briefly here. All right, if you want to talk about a keynote speech, which is basically 45 to 90 minutes, if I were you with a book out, I would charge $7,500. All right, if you're talking about a workshop where you're spending a half day, something like that, I'd probably charge $9,000 or something. If you're talking about a full day, I might charge $12,000. So when a lot of people talk about speaking and they conflate those things. But keynote, half day, full day. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you need to get yourself a whole bunch of testimonials, and you need to make a demo video, and you need to send that to some speakers bureaus. And I'm not very high normally on speakers bureaus, but the fact is you have a distinct specialty. You're in fundraising, which is very much needed today. You're in auctioneering, which is very much needed today because corporate giving, government giving is not what it used to be. It's basically individual giving in my experience in nonprofits. So you want to get a demo reel made, that is have somebody shoot you, and we could talk privately about what that would look like. Have somebody shoot you, and you want to go after some speakers bureaus with that. And you can also send the demo and your promotional stuff, when you say media kit, to organizations that are looking to hire speakers directly. So I'm going to stop there, give Lisa some time here.
My advice would be to write an outline of what your keynote is going to be about and what your workshops are going to be about so that I can see as a buyer the different distinctions between a keynote, a half day, and a full day workshop. And then I would probably, put them together in a nicely branded one pager. And I would reach out to people where I've done presentations before, or I've done business with them before, to let them know that I have this new offering that goes along with my book, and to see if they have any interest or any need for those types of services.
Okay. Didi, good to see you. Cass, we'll take one more question.
Okay, question from John Horowitz, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Yeah, Alan, how do you write efficiently and effectively?
Well, I just go for volume over quality, so I don't really care, John. I'm looking for you. Oh, there you are on my screen. How do you write efficiently and effectively? Okay, I'm going to tell you. I'm not trying to be glib, but I'm asked this question all the time. Number one, never self-edit. Never say, well, there are 4 key points, and then say, well, I wonder if there are 3 or there should be 6. If you thought there were 4, there were 4. You're the expert. Never self-edit. Okay. Number 2, don't ask other people for advice. It's your book. It's your article. Whatever you're doing, just write it. Don't ask other people for advice. I mean, by all means, have it edited, have it proofread, things like that. Monday morning memo, my wife always reads for me because I always make errors somewhere. And with publishers, I still don't know the difference between the word that and the word which they continually fix for me. So have it proofed. But number 3, think always about who your reader is. And don't worry about pleasing all of humanity. We're writing War and Peace here. So think of that ideal future buyer I talked about, even if it's a blog post. And what do you want to say to that buyer? That's the public square you want to be in, this public square based on your expertise. And then finally, write when it really suits you. So for example, I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's what I do. And either I'm going to work out that morning or I'm going to take the dogs in for coffee. And so early in the morning, I write. And if I'm writing a book, I'll write a subpoint about 4 or 5 pages of the book. If I'm writing an article, I'll write the article. And so in the morning, I post on Twitter. I'll look at LinkedIn. I'll look at Facebook. But I publish in both of my blogs. I have a public blog and a private blog, and I'll work on a book I'm writing on, or an article, or one of my 4 or 5 columns I put out every month. Just to give you a quick example, when I got this contract for Sentient Strategy, I was so excited about getting the contract that I sat down the next day and I wrote a complete chapter. I wrote 20 double-spaced pages in the course of maybe, an hour, because I was really, the adrenaline was flowing. So you've got to write when you got the flow, when you feel like it. but you also have to be responsible. Lisa talked well about accountability before. You need to say, okay, I can't wait for the flow. It's going to take 3 months. So I'm going to mark out 7 to 8 in the morning or 1 to 2 in the afternoon or whatever pleases you. Is that helpful?
Yes. Thank you.
Lisa, you want to add to that and then make any concluding statement you want to make? We've got 5 minutes left here.
Sure. I just think that, having some form of accountability built in, when you have a publisher who's waiting on you to deliver a manuscript, or you have a writing partner like Alan, for me, that accountability makes me sit down and do it. And I will tell you that when I have a deadline and I know I have to write something and I have to get it done by a set time, because I have to get it to someone else, I can get the work done. But often, if I don't have that deadline, I can rationalize why it's not important to get done right now. And so I think that's a good segue into, marketing. I think a lot of us, you need to think about your marketing the way that you would think about driving your car. When you get on the highway, you keep your foot on the gas. You don't take your foot off the highway because you don't take your foot off the gas because you're on the highway and you're going fast. Too many people take their foot off the gas when things are good in their business, and then they wait until they're at a complete stop, and then they think they can just tap the gas again and immediately get the volume of business that they've had. They don't realize that marketing takes time. And so you really want to be consistent about your marketing and ensure that you have a clearly defined strategy in terms of what makes sense for you from a marketing perspective, and that you keep your foot on the gas all the time and not let yourself kind of fall to the side of the road and out of the visibility of the people who may want to do business with you.
Let me say first, if any of you have questions we didn't get to here, send me an email and I'll be happy to answer the question. You get one question, but send me the question. It's Alan, ALAN at summitconsulting.com, ALAN at summitconsulting.com. So if you drop me a line with your question, I'm happy to answer it. I don't want you to feel like we didn't get to it. I will get to it. I'll copy Lisa on the reply in case she wants to add to it. And so I want to say in conclusion, first of all, thank you all for being with us. We deeply appreciate it. And buy the damn book. We would deeply appreciate that too. But you have to look at marketing as something that is enjoyable, and you have to find ways to enjoy it. And I mean, most people tighten up and they get afraid when they're with a buyer. I love the chess. I love the sort of competition being with a buyer. I love to use language. I mean, something I like to do. So, I gave you 5 options before. Find what you really love to do and do those 1 or 2 things. I'm a terrible networker, right? So if I relied on networking, people would come up to me and I'd say, why are you talking to me? I'm not interested. I have things to do. I want to get a drink. So I wouldn't make much business that way. But man, I can write and I can speak. And when I was fired in '85, I said to myself, what can I do? And I realized I could write and I could speak. I'm still writing and speaking today. So find something that's not onerous. Find what you love to do, but be disciplined about it. Lisa's completely correct about accountability. And I'll give you the secret here. There are 2 kinds of accountability that will stand you in good stead. One is public accountability, where other people know and expecting something. So when Lisa said, Alan needed something, I knew I had to produce. But when people say to their group, their community, I am going to write this, I am going to lose weight, I am going to visit a foreign country, the next meeting, people are going to say, how you doing with that? So that's public accountability. And that's the number 2. The number 1 is this. If you can create self-accountability, you will be a tremendous success in life. Not enough people have self-accountability. They prevaricate, they procrastinate, and it's all based on fear. So stop being afraid. Nobody's shooting at you. And if you have the accountability that says, at the end of the day, did I do it today? Bentley, busy. He's trying to kill the UPS guy. Did I do today what I promised myself I would do? That's a question you can only ask and answer yourself. So on behalf of Lisa and me, we enjoyed writing this book tremendously, and we hope you liked being here today. We have another session coming up, which we will inform you about. But thank you very much, and I wish you all Godspeed. Okay, take care.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.